The Archdiocese of Chicago is a vibrant and diverse faith community. We celebrate our faith through worship, evangelization, and reaching out to the needy. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. My name is Joyce Duriga. I'm the editor of the Chicago Catholic, the newspaper for the Archdiocese of Chicago, and this is where we talk to the people who are making the headlines that we're covering in the latest issues of the paper. So we're doing a series of interviews with our Gabriel Fellows who've been working with our multimedia radio and television program for many months now. And but before that, we wanted to find out what the Gabriel Fellows program is. So we have Vince Girasoli, who's the director of multimedia content for the Archdiocese of Chicago, to help us learn all about it.
Well, I'm happy to be able to chit-chat with you today about it. We're really excited about this program. It has meant an awful lot to us, and it's just infused an awful lot of energy into our day-to-day operations here at the Archdiocese, where we produce content for various platforms at the Archdiocese. But it's just brought a spark of energy, and it's helped us cover more events, more material, more of the good things that are happening throughout the Archdiocese of Chicago. And at the same time, we've been able to watch these fellows put together film projects, mini documentaries, short form documentaries is the correct form. And it's been a delight working beside the filmmakers.
Now, how did it all get started?
Well, the program was made possible through a very generous donation from Jessica Sarowitz, who is a Chicagoan and also lives in the Los Angeles area and is involved in many things, one of them creating documentaries and creating films. And she was speaking with people on the staff here at the Archdiocese of Chicago about the power of content. You know, Joyce, you and I know about that because that's what we do for a living. And she was talking about the power of content and how maybe she might be able to help create a program where more content was created to tell the stories of everyday Catholics who are spreading the good word and who are bringing the help of the church to various communities. And so she got that conversation started, and she was able to endow this fellowship for 3 filmmakers. So when we were in the early stages, we were thinking, okay, well, who do we want these filmmakers to be? How are we going to choose them? And really, we came up with the idea that this would be an excellent opportunity for a recent graduate from a film program to spend a year with us, and they would be able to research and create their documentaries. And of course, that's a pretty big job in and of itself, but it doesn't need to take up 40 hours a week.
Sure.
And so when they weren't working on those projects, they would be working in our department. And for folks who don't know what we do in our department, we produce programs like the one you're hosting right now. We produce various programs for radio platforms and for our YouTube channel and Facebook spaces as well. And then we also produce broadcast masses in Polish and Spanish and English, and we travel out to different areas throughout the Archdiocese, different parishes, different ministries, and we spotlight the work that they do. So we felt that these fellows could both work on their individual projects, but they could also provide a helping hand as we do our best to cover what's going on in the Archdiocese. So that was step one. We'll work with young filmmakers who would come in and support us, but also would be working on their documentaries. So I went out to various universities that have film programs, not just nearby, but also in the New York area and out in Los Angeles. And we approached their faculty advisors, we approached their deans, and we said, hey, we have this opportunity available. So could we interest some of your students in it into applying? So maybe we should say what exactly was the opportunity. So they could join us here on staff, and they would also be paid members of our staff. So they received benefits, they received a paycheck.
It's amazing, yeah.
And they would join us for at least a year, maybe a bit longer. And they'd also have a budget. Each person would have a budget, and it's a considerable budget to make a documentary. And so we came up with that program, and we felt we could support 3 people with the funds that were available to come work with us and then to create these films. And so I went out and I spoke with various schools, and then we scheduled interviews with the students who were interested in the program. And it was actually difficult making the decision because there were a number of people who would have been, a great fit for the program. But the folks we eventually chose, there was, as I said before, you could see their spark even before they got here, and they were just very just inquisitive people and creative people, and they submitted selections of their previous work, sizzle reels is what we'll call it in the industry.
I renamed it Sizzle earlier today. It's called a Zizzle reel.
A sizzle reel.
Yeah.
But so they submitted sizzle reels, and we looked at what their past work was, and we said, well, if you had to put together a documentary, you're not going to be held to creating the documentary you talk about now, but if you had to put something together, do some quick research, let us know what it would look like, and then, the cream tends to rise. And so we found 3 wonderful young filmmakers who came and joined us, and fortunately the donation also included equipment for them to tell these stories, and they are telling just wonderful stories, living like a fly on the wall with some of our ministries and some of the work that we're doing. I know that one of our filmmakers has traveled to Alaska to take a look at how the church reaches remote areas. There's one priest in particular that uses like a puddle jumper is what I'd call it, but flies from location to location. Another one of our filmmakers has spent time with our Colby House ministry, which works with incarcerated people and tries to help them make sense of what went wrong in their life and how they can turn things around. And actually, that filmmaker went behind the prison walls at the Cook County Jail and spoke with those who were incarcerated and taking part of the programs there. And then this is an issue that is reaching the top of the headlines, how the church is responding to the migrant crisis. And we have another filmmaker who took a look at that and the incredible journeys that some of these people went on and how the church is there for them to try to help them step into a viable, sustainable life here in the United States.
Well, and we're going to, obviously, folks who are watching this, we're going to meet one of these filmmakers each time on this series. But, I know this is a no-brainer for us, but why does it matter? Why does content matter in evangelization in the life of the church?
Well, there's 2 ways you can look at it. So first is, if you don't tell your story, somebody else will. And a lot of what we do with humility, and we're humble, and we don't try to market that to everyone. We just want to do our good works and not let everyone know about it. And that's very noble, but sometimes it's good to share that, because when you share that, what are the reactions? One reaction is, well, if they could do that, maybe they need my help to do more. And that's a good reason to save it. But also, you might inspire someone to find that spark in themselves to spread the messages of love and acceptance and help and faith. And so that's why it's important to tell these stories and to create this content. I think sometimes we tend to think of it as a pat on the back. Don't look at it like that. Look at it as sharing the word, inspiring others, and helping others find the courage or the strength or the talent in themselves to maybe go out and do the same. And
we've got like 2 minutes left, but when we go out to cover stories, we run into the fellows, but how would you say that they've really impacted the life of the church locally, as far as the stories they've been able to tell, and in your office, obviously?
Well, they've increased our reach, which is so important, because there are many things going on, and we only have so many people who work in our office. So how do you choose what to do? Well, they've given us the ability to be in 2 places at once, or 3 places at once, to create more content and to let more people know about what's going on in the Archdiocese. But also the energy they bring to it as well, which is they're actually, for them, sometimes this is the first time, everything's cyclical. So how many times have we been to certain events? It's just, 2022, 2023, 2024, but it's the first time for them. So there's this brand new energy, this brand new spark. And that's what they've been able to do. They've been able to help us increase our reach, and also to sort of take if it's the first time that they're at a particular event, they have a new frame of reference and they can cover it from that new point of view. And that's part of what they've helped to bring to us.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Vince, for telling us about the Gabriel Fellows. Please thank the donor. I think it's been a wonderful contribution to, evangelization and spreading the good news of the
Well,
church.
she's a filmmaker herself, and she believes in the power of communication. And I think this couldn't have happened without her foresight and without her belief in the program. And we're very happy that she had the idea in the first place.
I agree. Okay, folks who are listening or watching, stay tuned. We're going to have a sizzle reel for you in just a few seconds.
The Colby House experience with the staff and everybody, you leave those interactions, those meetings with these people, you leave there with dignity. They treat you with kindness. They treat you like a normal person, even though we don these detainee uniforms. You can be a regular person with them. There's no looking down. There's no condescending looks. There's no need to be ashamed. They accept you, every single person, the same.
With Colby House, you look at the people who have been engaged with the program and where they've gone with their lives afterwards. You can absolutely, without any hesitation, say, but for Colby House, this person would not be where they're at today. This is true. And it's not an inconsequential number of people. It's a lot of people.
I want to thank Colby House for being there for me during the roughest time in my life.
It's an organization that is making a difference on people's life. I'm proud to be part of Colby House.
This is definitely a comfort in a not so comfortable place. And for that, I would love to thank Colby House and all of the people that make it happen.
That was the sizzle reel for Trevor Tosto's documentary on Colby House Jail Ministry, and we have Trevor here with us today to tell us about his documentary and everything he's learned about Colby House. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So how did you find out about, go ahead, we were talking offline, but it was a nice little serendipity story about how you got hooked up with Colby House.
Yeah, sure. So when I proposed a project here for the fellowship, I wanted to do something along the lines of incarceration and faith. And it was kind of vague at the moment, but I ended up starting here. And then within the first week, I was just hanging out here in the studio, and the executive director of Colby House was just sitting in, and I got introduced to him, and it just kind of like, almost felt like fate of like, here's our jail ministry that's within the Archdiocese, and here's someone that wants to do a documentary related to the topic. So,
it's a wonderful ministry. Go ahead, tell people what it's about.
So Colby House, their main mission is just to help individuals, families, or any and all between that are infected by incarceration. So whether that's helping reentry, helping during incarceration and whatnot, and just kind of helping along the lines of like, they're trying to combat recidivism in a sense, and also having a support system for those that are affected by the criminal justice system. And
they have different programs. We talked in the hallway one day, they have a centering prayer program that's supposed to be really successful. Yeah, that's something that's growing. That's been exponential ever since I've started here, and just I'm actually working on a video with them about that, and just how we're trying to grow it to different correctional facilities across Illinois, and hopefully beyond that. But just having it be a sense of meditation, and how that can be such a helpful tool to find peace and find, searching within yourself. And it seems to be a very, very impactful thing for those that have been in the program. I only know that they have it. What do they do? For how do they run? Is it like a service they do in the jails? Yeah, so there are about 80 in-jail volunteers that do 30 different programs throughout the week, and then Centering Prayer is one of them, which I think they host. 80 volunteers? 80 volunteers. In Cook County? Yep. And then there's more in Lake County? I'm actually not quite sure. I apologize. Okay, that's quite all right, yeah. But, wow, that's a lot of volunteers. When I started, it was about 70, and then throughout the past couple months here, it just seems to be word of mouth. Like, they don't do much promotion. It just seems to be someone says, like, I had a wonderful time, and helping people that have been affected by such, and going into the jail and teaching classes, and it's just been growing and growing. It's just been phenomenal to see. What are some of your favorite programs that you found?
Obviously, the Centering Prayer program was super fascinating just because it's 20 minutes of silence, and then they, kind of reflect on that and talk about certain things going on, whether that's in their lives or have been impacted by while their time incarcerated. But also, I got to join in on Mondays. They do the show The Chosen, which is
they show it.
They show
Okay.
episodes at a time and also do discussions afterwards, and that's also fascinating to see. And then I'm trying to think of the other programs that I've seen so far. I know there's like Bible study, and then obviously there's prayer groups and whatnot. But those are the two that I've seen. Even those currently incarcerated, they seem to really look forward to those programs.
And they have mass. Is it every week or?
I think they offer 3 times a week.
Okay.
But,
Oh.
yeah.
Why did the topic interest you, the intersection of faith and incarceration?
It's definitely more of a personal reason where my family was actually affected by incarceration. When I was 12, my dad served some time in jail, and just watching the consequences of that throughout my life has been fascinating to say the least. So
I'm sure to say. Yeah. Yeah, to the very least, yeah.
Certainly, I was lucky. A lot of us, or my family, had a really good support system, but I know that there are many individuals out there that are not as lucky. So just trying to shed some light on, here's a ministry that specializes in being a support system and how crucial it is in those first steps, especially with reentry.
Yeah, reentry is a huge thing for I always stumble over the word recidivism. Is it recidivism?
Recidivism. It's like the D before the V.
Yeah. So was there anything surprising that you've learned so far, or what are or how has it opened your mind, or both?
Oh, certainly. I mean, I came in with a very vague understanding of all this, and just kind of learning about the criminal justice system, especially here in Chicago, has been. I hate to use the word fascinating because it doesn't feel right, but it's been interesting for sure. Just to see how those impacted by it, how much that can change, and how much again, like the support system, how crucial it is in terms of trying to find your footing again, especially with reentry, like we were talking about. But I'm hoping to continue learning and keep moving forward with that. And
in your clip, you have you've interviewed some folks who are incarcerated. Mm-hmm. So what did they have to say about? Can you share for people who maybe don't? Hopefully, they'll go and see your documentary when it's premiered. But for people who, can you share a little bit about what they had to say, where they are in their life, so that people might understand if they're not affected by incarceration?
Oh, sure. So one of the most fascinating things is that through Tom Cook at Colby House, he's the in-jail coordinator. Okay. He helped me set up 20 interviews with individuals in custody, and one of the recurring themes was just about kind of finding peace with whether they made a mistake or what they're serving time for or whatnot, and just when you're on the deck, when you're currently incarcerated, you have a lot of time to think, and you have a lot of time to reflect, and that's what seems Centering Prayer seems to help with a lot. And something that I also found fascinating was just about how I don't know how to say it, but a lot of them talked about the true self and the false self, which seems to be a topic within the Centering Prayer group, which they like to talk about. So whether that's like toxic shame and having doubts or reflections about said things, but trying to find your true self, and just how we kind of don't realize sometimes that we build up a persona, to say the least, just to please others or to kind of hide behind it. But a lot of them talked about finding their true selves and trying to live to their fullest in that sense.
Wow. And the folks in the jail, they were waiting trial. I mean, they're not. I went to visit them years ago when I first started, and the first thing they said to me, corrected me on, was prisons and jails are different things. Mm-hmm. And those folks, some people spend a lot of time in Cook County Jail just waiting to get their court case, mm-hmm. resolved, and then move on to whatever's next, right?
I hope I'm not oversharing, but there was somebody that we interviewed that had been serving for 17 years and
goodness.
Or just waiting for 17 years, and just last week got his verdict. So that's
wow. Was he convicted, or is he?
He was convicted, and now he's serving time in prison.
Wow, that's a long time to wait, and then you got to deal with That's a lot. And I know you interviewed in the clip Tom Dart, who's the Cook County Sheriff. What did he seems to very much appreciate the Colby House program.
Yeah, he's probably one of the #1 supporters. Not only that he said like, oh, is the programming free, but also it's currently and actively making a difference. And like those incarcerated are actively seeking, these programs, and Colby House is there standing, we want to do more. So he's a huge fan of it.
And he's Catholic, so he's very involved in, in the criminal justice reform, and he seems very creative and open to, I remember in one interview he said he's running the largest mental health facility in the county, and it's so much stuff going on, and you want to help these folks, and so what else have you learned that you can share with people about maybe another couple programs that were interesting to you? So Centering Prayer was the first one that was most interesting to you, and then remind me what the other one was.
The Chosen Group.
Oh, the Chosen Group.
That was fascinating because, they kind of go episodically through the entire show. So when I was there, I believe they were in season 2, episode 2. So it's just interesting to kind of jump right into it for their conversation where they picked up all right, here's what happened last week's episode, and then here's a synopsis about today. They watch the episode and then talk about said things in the episode. And that was just really fascinating.
We forget that they're real people, that they're somebody's son or somebody's daughter or or somebody's parent or,
Yeah.
And has this changed you? Do you see it impacting you going forward after you leave the fellowship?
Oh, certainly. And I definitely knew beforehand, but it's definitely been nailed in my head now. Just there isn't an us and a them. Like you said, it's, somebody's son, somebody's daughter, so on and so forth. And just trying to break that stigma that the general population has is Colby House's main mission is that, they see the humanity within everybody, even if, they've done the worst deed possible. Somehow, some way, Colby House sees that, you're human at the end of the day, and we make mistakes, and, it's their mission to just, humans can grow. Simple as that.
I did a book on Sister Helen Prejean. She's a death penalty abolitionist and wrote Dead Man Walking, for those of you who are watching or listening. And one of the takeaways I had was one of her quotes she says a lot is, all the time, is that we're worth more than the worst thing we ever did. It gets choked up. Yeah. Well, we were talking a little bit about, tell people who Maximilian Kolbe are, offline about who Maximilian Kolbe is.
St. Max.
Yeah, go ahead.
St. Max Kolbe is a very tragic story to him, but he's a Polish priest that was working with Prince or working in the newspaper scene, and then was arrested during the time of the Poland takeover in Nazi Germany, and then was arrested and sentenced to Auschwitz and died there of lethal injection while, sorry if I'm kind of all over the place here, but he stepped in for somebody that was condemned to death and took their spot after there was a rumor that one of the prisoners had escaped, and so they kind of cracked down, and then somebody out of the crowd was kind of picked on and chosen you are going to be condemned to death. And Kolbe kind of stepped in, seeing that this man was crying and pleading for his wife, kid, family, and stepped in and
I think that guy survived, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. He did.
So folks who are listening or watching, we were talking about this offline too. We have a Marytown up in Libertyville, which is directly related to Maximilian Kolbe. He established these Marytowns on each continent, if my information is still correct. And it's beautiful up there. They have a little museum to Maximilian Kolbe and some relics and artifacts from his life, so it's worth a drive up there. So we've got about, 6 or 7 minutes left, so let's talk about the fellowship. So how'd you find out about it, and let's start there.
Yeah, I got lucky where I had a wonderful supervisor at Marquette University, where I graduated from, and one of the things that she does there is she has a listserv of just various different jobs and internships that students can apply for, whether it's during their time at Marquette or just about to graduate. And so one of the things that she recommended to me was actually an email for the Gabriel Fellowship here through the Archdiocese. And I think I was the only one at Marquette that applied. And I think
wow.
And it's interesting because hearing from the other fellows, it sounds like Vince made a tour and did in-person things. for trying to promote this fellowship, but for whatever reason Marquette just wasn't on the list, so it was more of an email. And so I think it was rather a surprise to see a Marquette person apply. So I got very lucky to have found the link to it.
And you're doing a lot more, not just working on your documentary.
Mm-hmm.
So how has that been anything surprising? I mean, they've been doing videos and stuff to help out with our radio and TV and digital ministry. So they've been all over the place covering stuff and like we do.
Yeah, it's been super interesting doing like the short form content because it's more of the broadcast journalism sense, which is a different type of filmmaking than I'm relatively used to. But for whatever reason, I've always been connected to journalism, even though I've tried to put my strengths into just narrative filmmaking. But
I'm a fan of journalism, so
yeah,
obviously, yeah. So stay that route. Yeah.
No, I love it. I love trying to coordinate with whether it's parish events or whatnot, and you guys provide a lot for us to go cover. So thank you for that.
You're most welcome.
Yeah.
So back to Colby House. So are you able to speak to maybe how people could get involved or any of the needs that they have that people watching or listening could help with?
Oh, sure. So obviously they have social media pages that you can check out and see what's up, but also just going to their location. They take anybody just showing up to the door, whether you're looking for somebody else that might be looking for help, or you yourself want to go volunteer. If you just show up at the door, they'd be happy to insist and guide you in any way that they can of being part of the mission.
And I'm jumping around too, so it's not just you. But I forgot to ask you when we were talking about how you found out about the program. What are you looking to? What's next, or what do you want to do long term? Are you going to continue doing the journalistic style videos, or what are you thinking?
Well, like I said, it just seems to always find its way into my life. So I would like to stick with it. But I love making comedy. So it's a very comedy stuff. So it's a very different world compared to what I'm doing right now, but I'm very lucky to be doing this at the moment, and just trying to make the best out of it while I can.
I think it's good that you're focusing on Colby House and the whole, because like you said, there is a stigma between us and them,
mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And since you've kind of personally experienced that, is there any advice you have on how not, like somebody who doesn't have someone who maybe, or know anybody who's incarcerated, like from personal experience, is there anything that you would tell them or any advice you'd give on how to kind of get rid of that stigma?
Oh, that's a hard one, just because, just the general census that evil is evil and that's the end of the question. But, it's an active effort. It's not going to be like you're going to wake up one day and say oh, suddenly I do believe in redemption arcs and whatnot. But it's something that you have to grow with as well as believe in. So I think just simply as giving it a second thought of just, everyone deserves a second chance is super important.
Well said. I know we have a little bit more time, but I think we will wrap up on that. But let me give a plug to the newspaper. So go to ChicagoCatholic.com. You can find out all of our content is posted there. We also post our podcasts, so Trevor will be on there. And then you can follow us on social media. And importantly, you can subscribe. It's $35 a year. We come out about every 2 weeks. That helps support our ministry. You can sign up for a free newsletter that I send out a couple times a week. And you can check out what Cardinal Cupich usually writes. So you can check out what's on his mind. And you can also see what some of the stuff that Pope Francis is up to. So, well, Trevor, this has been a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to the unveiling of all of your documentaries. I think it'll be great. And thanks for all you're doing for Colby House and the folks who are incarcerated in need of voice.
They say the exact same thing. You get out of it more than what other people get out of it, which is the strangest thing you wouldn't realize, but it's been phenomenal. So Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.